It's been more than a decade since the last space shuttle launch in 2011. The problem with these vehicles are they are insanely expensive to maintain. We're talking in the billions, and to build, of course, and they are only partially reusable. SpaceX endeavors to change all this with fully reusable rockets that are in fact much larger and can carry much more payload into space. This coming Friday on the 17th, there will be another launch attempt from Boca Chica in Texas. Let's talk about this and see what the realities are. So today we'll go through a few things regarding the launch attempt on this coming Friday. So if all goes well, the launch will take place this coming Friday on the 17th. A few things that we'll go through. We'll go through the basics regards to steps from 1 to about 10 steps in regards to what takes place when during this launch. So, but before we get to that, we're gonna quickly take a look at the launch site. For those of you that don't know, the launch site for the Starship test flight is in Boca Chica, South Texas. In the background you'll see, courtesy of SpaceX, a couple of videos running from time to time. There you'll see we'll zoom into the launch site in the south of Texas. Now the reason for launch site being so far south down the coast of the United States is this. Let me quickly explain this to you. The equator runs through the halfway line of the Earth, like you can see over there. To take advantage of the velocity of the Earth's rotation, the closer you can get to the equator for a rocket launch, the better it will be, and you'll gain some tonnage that you can put into orbit in that way. So that's one of the ways that we can take advantage of the launch pad. So that's the reason for the test or the launch pad being so far south in the United States. Unfortunately, it's not on a mountain. That actually does sound ridiculous if you say it like that, but if you take into consideration, if you launch from a higher altitude or platform, you would save a lot of fuel, and you can increase your tonnage or your payload capacity as well. So the ideal place to launch from would actually be from the equator on a mountain, which is unfortunately not possible. Like you can see, another thing to take into consideration is the fact that you would have to have some ocean or a large water body to the east, because you are going to end up launching towards the east to take advantage of that rotation. In regards to the site at Boca Chica in the United States, the reason for it being so far south is so it can be as close to the equator as humanly possible. So for that specific reason, it's located at Boca Chica. So now we'll zoom into Boca Chica. Like I said, south of Texas, right close to the Mexican border. That mark it here, so let's quickly zoom in and see what we can. So this is Boca Chica. Starbase is located here. Mexican border is just across the river, Rio Grande. So assembly of the Starships take place here. You can see the high bay there, rocket garden at the back, the rockets and boosters that's not being used currently is being housed here. And take in mind the satellite footage you're seeing here is not up to date. So this is during various phases of the construction of the Starbase and the ships involved. A lot of construction still taking place here, and still at present a lot of construction taking place. So this is not up-to-date footage, but it serves the purpose to explain the video. So the construction takes place here. Rockets once completed is moved down to here. Boca Chica Beach, around there. launch tower you can clearly see is still under construction at some phase during the construction, I assume before the previous launch attempt. Over here you can see one of the Starships placed next to the launch tower. Suppose this is the Starship that was previously destroyed during the previous launch or launch attempt. This tower is quite high, you can see the shade going all the way across the building site. Water tanks located over here for the water suppression system on the Starship launch tower. Here you can see the fuel tanks. So Starship rockets run on methane and oxygen. So it's quite a process and quite a complicated process at that. And I'm not going to explain the rocket engine and how it operates on this video, but how the launch procedure will work and what's going to happen step 1 to step 10, I'm going to explain to you to the best of my ability. Like I said, in the background you'll see a couple of videos and illustrations courtesy of SpaceX. The Starship rocket is going to be about 123 meters, 121 in fact, but there was multiple changes made to the Starship during the last few months that I had to comply with. So there's a hot staging ring employed on this rocket. Okay, so in terms of the steps that will be taken, we'll get to that in a bit, but one thing that we have to take into consideration is the potential on this rocket launch. This will revolutionize the rocket industry completely if this succeeds. There's a few dangers involved, obviously. Obviously no individual will be close to this launch site. I think the closest people will be around the Bold site around there potentially, and possibly in neighboring towns. You can see this rocket from many miles away, and people will be lining up to view this rocket launch indeed. So in terms of rocket and the steps that will be taken, safety is the first thing to take into consideration here. So safety is one of the main aspects during any rocket launch, and this will be no different. This is the largest and most powerful rocket ever built and ever launched, will be after this coming Friday. So it will be vitally important to maintain a safe distance from this launch attempt. In terms of safety, the amount of fuel on this rocket, should it ignite on the ground, it will create a massive explosion. So there is risks involved, and in fact there is no going forward for humanity if we don't take risks. So there will always be risks involved in everything that we try to achieve or do. So after step 1 is completed and the Starship 25 is placed on top of booster 9, then a fueling will commence. A quick disconnect arm will be connected to the vehicle. It will be fueled, and once it's fueled, the QD arm, the quick disconnect arm, will retract. Obviously, number 4, after the countdown, the launch itself takes place. If all goes well and the rocket launches and it gets to 190 seconds after launch, after which it would be on 65 kilometers from the surface of the Earth, then separation starts. 30 Raptors will shut off. Only 3 of them will still remain throttling at about 50%, at which stage the Starship's rocket engines will start up, the Raptor engines. And that's where the hot staging ring comes into effect, and that's why the Starship can ignite its rockets while still attached, because of that hot staging ring. After the separation at 65 kilometers, the booster starts descending to Earth. Once it comes into range or back down or close to the Earth's surface, then the engines reignites. At this stage, it should have a splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, if all still stays to the initial plans. If the Starship makes it to orbit successfully after this, then it will go around the Earth and re-enter the atmosphere close to our Y. At this stage, it will enter the Earth's atmosphere and it will rotate itself and it will perform a belly flop maneuver. Once it's close to the surface of the Earth, it will ignite its rocket engines again and it should splash down. That's the initial arrangement. I'm not sure if there was any changes to this, but that's the basics of how it will be performed. If all goes according to plan, rocket should separate at 65 kilometers. Booster should return to Earth, Gulf of Mexico if I'm not mistaken. That's for now. It's planned to catch the booster and the Starship at a later stage of development after the first initial testing is completed. So that's the basics of it and how it's supposed to work. But should this be successful, we will see a revolution in terms of how the space industry operates. This will enable us to put up to 150, potentially 200 tons of payload into orbit. That's quite a lot of payload considering if you want to build space stations that are able to maintain a form of gravity. Obviously these space stations still needs to be designed, but enabling us to put tons of building material in space would take us a long way to getting to the phase where we can actually build gravity enabled space stations. And obviously by doing this we can get ourselves a lot closer to getting a presence on Mars, the Moon. And if you think about it, it's been ages since we've had the capability to put so much weight into space in one go. The disposable form of the Starship, which is planned for future, would be able to put the 250 tons into orbit. The reusable form of Starship would be able to put about 100 to 150 tons into space or into orbit. Obviously a lot of refueling will need to be done. I think Elon Musk suggested something like 8 launches to refuel one Starship once it's in orbit. So quite a lot of work, quite a lot of science and experimentation still to be had and experience to be gained, and yes, there will be a few mistakes along the way. So if it, in my opinion, if it separates and the Starship gets into orbit, it's a success. If the rocket disintegrates or anything serious goes wrong during the re-entry of both the booster and the rocket itself, the Starship itself, then I would still consider it a success. But let's see what happens during the launch. I just hope that humanity, well, gives us the opportunity to go forward with advancements. The way things are currently going on our sweet little blue planet is not that nice, and our tendency to make wars and potentially prolong advancement because of those wars, because it influences the economy and everything as a whole, is unfortunate, and I don't think that's going to disappear anytime soon. So we need to evolve or learn to evolve with our ongoing conflicts and our ongoing problems that we have. Unfortunately, that's a part of life and that's the way it is. That's part of human nature. I don't see that changing anytime soon, except if you change us all with androids or robots. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that makes us human beings, and unfortunately our wars have shaped our future. A lot of our technology comes from warfare, including rocketry and rocket engines, unfortunately. You can ask the Germans about that. You can ask the Americans as well, because they use a number of German scientists to get their rocket industry and their space race, and the whole space industry, in fact, started. So all of our struggles as humanity have contributed to where we are currently and also to where we are going. So let's see what happens on this coming Friday. Let's hold our thumbs and see. Let's just hold our thumbs and hope for the best. Hope to see you again soon. Keep well, and remember to give me a like and a subscribe if you'd like.